Well, good morning, everyone. This is John Neerman, and it is my pleasure to call this meeting of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to order. Today is Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. Happy New Year, everyone. The time is 9:30 a.m., and I'll begin with the roll call. Commissioner Lindley, I see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning, Commissioner Janeka.
Morning, Chairman.
So our commissioners are all present. How about our General Counsel? Ms. Smith, are you there?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning. And our Public Interest Counsel, Mr. McWhirter?
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. So I'd like to remind folks to keep their phones on mute when they're not speaking. I'd also like to remind anyone who is here only to listen that they can watch the meeting online, and that link is available on the agenda notice. For each item where argument or discussion is allowed, we will inform speakers of their time limits. Registration closed at 9:30, but if you'd like to address the commission on a particular item, please email agenda@tceq.texas.gov with your name, affiliation, and the number of the item that you'd like to comment on, and we will do our best to accommodate that request. For those who are making presentations, please wait to begin your presentation until I or our General Counsel have asked you to begin speaking, and please check to make sure that your line is unmuted before you speak. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for being present. And Ms. Smith, I'll ask you to please call the first item.
Item number one.
Oh, Mary, before you do that real quick, I had one small item I wanted to bring up, and that was from Bobby and I to wish Chairman Neerman a very happy birthday.
Hey, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was
going to have Bobby sing because we know he's the one with the talent in the group, but I guess we'll hold off. Maybe another time.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that in executive session or something.
I didn't know I was going to request that either, but I think he'd be up for it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I don't know how all of a sudden I became middle-aged, and I was joking with some friends and colleagues yesterday about being middle-aged. I'm not sure I could call myself that because I'm gonna have to reach 110 years old to be truly middle-aged right now. But in any event, I appreciate the sentiments.
Well, I had a wonderful last-minute idea yesterday, but I didn't get it done, which was, the letters people put in their front yards for their children's birthdays? John Neerman deserves that, but get it done.
That's great. Well, I appreciate the thought anyway, and it is a thought that counts. There's space in my front yard with some melting snowmen still, actually. But anyway, thank you for that. I really appreciate you guys. Ms. Smith, you want to go ahead with the caption on the first item?
Yes. Item number one is the application by the United States Department of Army for renewal and major amendment of Industrial Hazardous Waste Permit number 50292. The parties have been notified that the Commission will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have registered for this item will be noted for the record.
Thank you. Colleagues, Teresa Slack has requested a contested case hearing on this application, citing concerns about blasts and explosions occurring on the applicant's property connected with the closure of the former military installation there. And it seems that these explosions have indeed created a real hardship for Ms. Slack. I want to thank Mr. Lawson, Mr. Pearson, Mr. Proctor for being present for the applicant. Recognizing the position that Ms. Slack is in, I'd like to encourage you gentlemen to try to be a good neighbor to her, put yourself in her shoes, and keep the lines of communication open to the extent that you can. And Ms. Slack, please appreciate that these gentlemen also have a job that they need to do. With that admonition, let me get to the merits of this matter. This permit does not regulate the Army's detonation activity. It is simply a waste authorization, and as such, Ms. Slack's concerns are not interests that are protected by the authorities under which this application is considered. And to put that a different way, Ms. Slack's concerns are outside the TCEQ's jurisdiction on this application. And so while I'm sympathetic to Ms. Slack, I believe that we're compelled to deny her request for a hearing. Commissioner Lindley, how did you come out on this?
I came out the same way, that what's in front of us today, I would agree to deny her hearing and stop there.
Thank you. Commissioner Janeka, I'll entertain any additional thoughts or a motion.
Yeah, I reached the same outcome each of y'all did. I'll only add that I think I've satisfied my own concerns that nothing about the permits authorizations is an implicit permission to detonate or conduct those activities. So if there is a remedy available to the requester in this case, hopefully our regulatory action leaves a very clear pathway for her to seek that elsewhere. But I'm grateful that you raised the point, and I couldn't second that more loudly, Chairman. That I certainly hope and would call on these individuals here today. Thank you all for being available to answer questions. But please do what you can to be a good neighbor. It sounds like this is all activity that's on the way out the door and being packed up and leaving the state. So hopefully it's not a long-standing permanent issue for her. But I'm prepared to move forward today as well.
Thank you, and I'll entertain a motion.
I would move. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'll move that we deny the hearing request of Teresa Lee Slack, grant the renewal and major amendment of hazardous waste permit number 50292 to the U.S. Department of the Army and adopt the Executive Director's response to comment.
A second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Commissioner Lindley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Janeka?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, please call the next item.
Item number 2 is the application by JW Development Partners, LP for new Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit number WQ0015778001. The parties have been notified that the Commission will not take oral argument, but may ask questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, here again, we have a single request for a contested case hearing. This one is by Ms. Phyllis Johnson. Ms. Johnson has raised concerns about the health of the community and of the Bay. However, she failed to state how she would be personally affected in a way that's different from the general public. Her property is also more than 2 miles from the proposed facility, so we would not expect her to be affected differently from the general public. Because requesters must establish a personal justiciable interest to be entitled to a hearing, I believe that we should deny this request as well. Commissioner Lindley, what are your thoughts?
I'm in agreement as well.
Commissioner Janeka?
Likewise, I didn't find that she raised a personal interest in this matter.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we deny the hearing request of Phyllis Johnson, that we grant the new Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit number WQ0015778001 to JW Development Partners, LLC, and adopt the Executive Director's response to comments.
A second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Commissioner Lindley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Janeka?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, please call the next items.
Item number 3 is the consideration of whether to affirm, modify, or set aside the emergency order renewing the appointment of a temporary manager for the public water system owned and operated by Beachview Acres Water Association. The Executive Director should speak first as the movant, followed by the respondent, who currently there's no one registered for the respondent, so they don't seem to be present. Hearing requesters, again, nobody signed in on this one. The temporary manager, if present, and OPIC. OGC recommends a 5-minute time limit on each party's presentation. The Executive Director is here to present.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. My name is Ben Worms, and I'm an attorney with the Litigation Division representing the Executive Director. With me today are Nima Montahan of the Water Supply Division and Caitlin Meringer of the Waco Regional Office. Item 3 is the emergency order renewing the appointment of a temporary manager of the public water utility owned and operated by Beachview Acres Water Association. The circumstances that led to the issuance of the first emergency order are as follows. On June 10th, 2019, the utility's administrative contact and licensed operator, Ms. Ann Robinson, informed a TCEQ investigator that she would no longer be responsible for the utility. Ms. Robinson could not provide contact information for anyone who would be taking over responsibility for the utility. An investigation was conducted on July 11, 2019, and multiple violations were documented, including improper maintenance of equipment and inadequate chlorination. On April 28, 2020, TCEQ Waco Regional Office received complaints of a water outage at Beechview Acres caused by a failing service pump. On May 1st, 2020, an investigator contacted Ms. Robinson regarding the outage, and Ms. Robinson stated that she was not responsible for the utility, refused to participate in an investigation, and again, could not provide an alternate contact for the utility. On May 5th, 2020, the investigator conducted an on-site investigation and found that the service pump was poorly maintained and ran continuously, increasing the likelihood of another outage. 3 days later, on May 8th, 2020, the utility did experience another outage. The water section manager of the Waco Regional Office contacted Ms. Robinson about issuing a boil water notice, which Ms. Robinson refused to do. Throughout the process of identifying solutions to problems facing this utility, Ms. Robinson has repeatedly ignored the contact attempts of TCEQ staff. The utility has been abandoned due to the failure to properly maintain equipment, failure to provide adequate water treatment, failure to notify customers of potential health hazards, and a pattern of failing to respond to the TCEQ. Because of this, on June 1st, 2020, the executive director issued an emergency order appointing Hilco United Services as temporary manager of the water utility. Hilco is a utility cooperative which provides electric service to the Beechview Acres utility and its customers. Additionally, Hilco provides water service in the area and maintains an emergency interconnect with the Beechview Acres system. Hilco has since submitted a sale transfer merger application to the Public Utility Commission to formally begin the process of acquiring the Beechview Acres utility. Hilco intends to provide water service to Beechview Acres on a long-term basis using their existing interconnect. On November 30th, 2020, the executive director issued this emergency order and reappointed Hilco as temporary manager of the water utility. Under Hilco's management, the water utility has provided continuous and adequate service to the customers of Beechview Acres, and no complaints regarding outages or water quality have been received during Hilco's term as temporary manager. The executive director respectfully requests that you affirm the November 30th, 2020 emergency order, and we are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Worms. I have none. Commissioner Lindley, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Janeka?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of us. I'm looking at the next respondents we might hear from. I'm just curious about next steps. Are we considering what the runway looks like beyond this second order that would continue to have the emergency manager or the temporary manager in place? Is there any consideration or any specific plan for discussion with OAG in terms of a receivership or a more permanent arrangements for this particular facility?
Yes, this facility is not heading towards receivership. Hilco is submitting a sales transfer merger application with the PUC, and when that is approved, they will attain the CCN area of Beechview Acres and be able to provide that water service on a long-term basis.
That answered my question perfectly. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Worms.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Worms. The order of presentation, if anyone's present next, would be first the respondent, that is anybody representing the owner or operator of Beechview Acres Water, followed by any hearing requesters, that is anyone wishing to challenge the emergency order that's before us, followed then by the temporary manager, Hilco United Services, or Mr. Bradley. I understand that none of those folks have registered to speak, and let me just pause for a moment and see if any of those folks might be on the line. Speak now if you are. All right, hearing none, let's hear next from the Office of Public Interest Counsel.
OPIC supports renewing the appointment of Hilco United Services as temporary manager of Beachview Acres Water Association. We recommend the Commission affirm the emergency order as presented by the Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. McWhirter. Colleagues, I want to again thank Mr. Bradley and Hilco United for taking on the management of this system. I think it's appropriate to affirm the order renewing Hilco's appointment, and we'll entertain any additional thoughts, comments, or a motion. Commissioner Lindley.
I'm ready to, affirming what the ED has put up in front of us, so I don't have any other comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Janeka.
Let me just race into it. I'll make the motion that we affirm the ED's November 30th, 2020 emergency order, renewing the appointment of Hilco United Services Incorporated as temporary manager for the water utility owned and operated by Beachview Acres Water Association, and issue an order approving the ED's emergency order.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Commissioner Lindley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Janeka.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, please call the next items.
That takes us to our enforcement docket, items 4 through 29, and the Executive Director's staff is here to present these matters.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Melissa Cordell of the Enforcement Division, and with me today is Brian Sinclair, also of the Enforcement Division, and Charmaine Backens of the Litigation Division representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 4 through 29. The total assessed administrative penalties are $771,041, with $181,401 deferred, $220,226 applied towards supplemental environmental projects, and $369,414 to the general revenue. We respectfully request approval of these items and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I have none. Commissioner Lindley, any questions?
I don't have any questions. I do have a comment I wanted to make on item 13. That is the EETDF Cleveland site. I don't know what y'all's thoughts are when you were reading the backup, but that one stood out to me. And so I just wanted to make the comment that I want OCE to closely monitor what's going on there to make sure those, assuming we vote on that today and those ordering provisions go into place, I want them to keep an eye on that. And as soon as the compliance deadlines in the order have passed, I think OCE needs to get out there and conduct a follow-up investigation. And if things have not been done like they're supposed to have been done and cleanup and other actions haven't occurred, then I would encourage, or I would maybe direct is the right word, OCE to refer that matter over to the Office of Attorney General. I just didn't get a real good feeling reading the backup about that site, and y'all know what happens when we let tires get out of control. So those are my thoughts on 13. I would like to approve what's in front of us today, but I want OCE to keep an eye on that one and get out there. The days have passed, and if action hasn't been taken, appropriate action, then I'd like to see it referred over to OAG.
Commissioner Lindley, thank you for that. I agree. I think this is a particularly serious matter. I also agree with not messing around with this entity, and if it's not moving along the schedule, or we have any reluctance to address the issue, that we do refer to the Attorney General's office. And let me turn your comment into a question for staff and just ask staff to please describe the end game. How are we going to get this cleaned up? And Ms. Cordell, I don't know if you're the best person to handle that, or if there's someone else, perhaps Mr. Sinclair, if you're able to answer that question.
This is Brian Sinclair. The comments from Commissioner Lindley and the concerns expressed by the commissioners today, I think, are spot on for this particular facility. There's a real long history here, even before the current owners with this particular site, and we will closely track this particular facility. And if they don't meet the corrective actions and ordering provisions, we will refer it for additional enforcement to enforce that. But this is a site that at one time was really bad. It got cleaned up almost completely, and it has gotten bad again. So we'll closely track it.
Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. And can you remind me what the timeline looks like for cleaning up? I understand there's some financial hardship here in this case, and wonder if the resources are available to do that, or how quickly might this happen?
I'm not prepared to speak to the entire timeline other than what's in the order, and I don't know if the attorney who worked on this, or if litigation division can also speak to this issue, but they are to reduce the volume of tires in either have a registration and begin managing the tire piles in the proper way under the registration, or to remove the tires. But I would have to give you a complete answer. I would have to research to greater detail the details of the timeline associated with this case.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. I appreciate that. And I know it's a little unfair of me to ask you to dive into the details on a particular matter. Let me pause for just a moment, see if there's anybody on the line who may have some additional knowledge about this. And if not, we can let it go and even follow up offline.
Good morning, Chairman. This is Charmaine Backens with the Litigation Division. I do not, unfortunately, have any additional information to offer regarding the timelines here, but I will work with Brian to follow up offline, and we can hopefully get you some answers on that.
Okay, appreciate that, Ms. Backens. And as we were speaking here, I got a note from one of our lawyers about, at least the ordering provision requiring that compliance be achieved within 45 days. That 45 days is a long time, but there are a lot of tires out there. So I guess let's just keep close tabs on this one. And thank you again, Ms. Backens and Mr. Sinclair for sharing your thoughts on this. Commissioner Ginecka, any comments on this item or any of the items on the enforcement docket?
No specific comments to add. Only to emphasize my strong agreement in Commissioner Lindley's concerns and the questions raised today. I'm really pleased to hear the attention that will be given to this matter, and I recognize it's very well said, Chairman. It's a lot of tires. So we will. I'll continue to be interested in this as well if this is a matter that we receive updates on, or there is a change in status. But I didn't have any other questions or concerns about the other items on the enforcement docket today, so I'm prepared to move forward.
All right, thank you for that. Ms. Smith, do we have anyone signed in to speak?
On items 9, 12, and 14, we had several individuals who signed in and indicated that they're available for questions, but they're not asking to speak, and their presence will be noted for the record.
Thank you for that. And I did notice, and on item 14, I wanted to thank Mayor Muir of Sanger, Texas, for being present. I noticed that he was signed in. And Mr. Mayor, this matter is certainly important to all of us. I really appreciate the attention that you're giving to it. With that, let's move on to our Office of Public Interest Counsel.
OPIC reviewed these items, and we support approval of the proposed orders as presented by the ED.
Thank you, Mr. McWhorter. I agree with that. I think we should approve these items. Commissioner Lindley, any additional thoughts?
No, and I can make a motion if we're ready. It sounds like we probably are. So I would move to adopt items 4 through 29 as recommended today by the Executive Director.
I second that motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. Commissioner Lindley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Janeka?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, please call the next item.
Item number 30 is the consideration of the publication and hearing on proposed new and amended sections of 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 115, regarding the control of air pollution from volatile organic compounds and corresponding revisions to the state implementation plan. The Executive Director's staff is here to present the item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I'm John Lewis with the Air Quality Division. With me is Amy Browning with the Environmental Law Division. For your consideration today are the Executive Director's proposed revisions to 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 115, that would implement reasonably available control technology, or RAC, consistent with the United States Environmental Protection Agency's control techniques guidelines for the oil and natural gas industry in the Dallas-Fort Worth and Houston-Galveston-Brazoria ozone non-attainment areas for the 2008 8-hour ozone national ambient air quality standard. The proposed rulemaking would create new Subchapter B, Division 7, to implement the new RAC requirements. The rulemaking would also make revisions to existing rules in Subchapter B, Divisions 1 and 2, and Subchapter D, Division 3, to streamline and consolidate requirements for sites subject to the new division. Staff respectfully request permission to publish the proposed rulemaking, solicit public comment, and hold a public hearing. Staff also requests permission to make non-substantive revisions to comply with the Texas Register requirements. Thank you. We are available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I have none. Commissioner Lindley, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Janeka?
None. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Smith, I don't think there's anyone signed in on this matter. Can you confirm that?
That's correct. No one signed in.
Let's hear next from the Office of Public Interest Counsel.
OPIC recommends approval for publication of and hearing on the proposed amendments to the Commission's Chapter 115 rules and corresponding SIP revisions as presented by the Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. McWhorter. Colleagues, as we heard, this proposed rulemaking would revise Texas's SIP to fulfill its obligations to address RACT in the Dallas-Fort Worth and Houston-Galveston-Brazoria areas, consistent with EPA guidance for the oil and natural gas industry. I think it's ripe for public comment and that we should move forward with publication. Commissioner Lindley, what are your thoughts?
I agree.
Commissioner Janeka, I'll entertain any thoughts, comments, or a motion.
Well said, agreed. And moving on, I move that we approve the publication of and hearing on the proposed new and amended sections of 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 115, and the corresponding revisions to the state implementation plan as recommended by the Executive Director.
I second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Commissioner Lindley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Janeka?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, please call the next item.
The next item, number 31, is our public comment session. Currently, we don't have anyone registered to speak on this item, but I'll pause for a moment and allow the line to be unmuted in case there's somebody on the line who'd like to address the Commission. Hearing no one, that takes us to the end of the items that are posted for open session. Items 32 through 35 are for closed session, and the Commission will not meet in closed session today.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. With that, the time is 10 a.m. and we are adjourned.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Bobby. Have a great day.